In every project, John's presence.
Welcome, dear listeners, to the realm of darkness. Prepare yourself for a journey into the unknown, where spinning chilling tales and nightmarish encounters await. This is the domain of the darkness, the sanctuary of shadows, and the heaven of horror. Welcome to the Witch's Tales, where nightmares come alive. We're so happy to share in this time here with my co-host Kenny.
Welcome, strangers. We are so happy to inaugurate this new podcast.
And when?
Welcome to everybody. Welcome Danny, welcome Gabby, welcome Liz and Kenny. We are so ready with our tales.
And my name is Liz.
Welcome to our first podcast. And we will start with a pretty interesting topic. Grandma's Campfire.
This section is about horror stories told by grandparents. It's a bone-chilling tale woven with her decades of life experience, filled with suspense, terrifying encounters, and supernatural elements that will leave you on the edge of your seat, instilling a sense of horror and fascination in your imagination.
These next stories were collected by the link, the WhatsApp chat, and our own experience. So, let's open this book of Ep1.
The following story was told by my grandmother. It was a little strange when I heard it from the first time. The title of this is La Caja Rota. So let's start. As you know, most people many years ago used to be strong believers, which is why they prayed constantly and went to church often. In this case, my grandmother's mother made her daughters get up at 4 a.m. to pray the rosary. My grandmother tells me that she was very young at that time, and as every teenager loves to sleep. When her mother had run into her daughter's room to wake up them to pray because she heard some very loud noises, as if they were dragging supper house chain. It sound be noted that the place where they live as old cobblestone, that sound was very loud, so that the sound was too much, and at every moment it became more intense and more intense. My grandmother and her sister had gotten up reluctantly and without knowing what was happening. When a little later they knocked out the door, my great-grandmother went out to see what was going on, and it turned out that my grandmother's brother had arrived drunk. All play, and he told them that he had seen a procession of people coming down carrying a coffin, and they were carrying hack chain and dragging them. My great-grandmother had punished him to tell them that when people misbehave or do things that are not right, La Caja Ronca appears, which is supposed to make a loud noise to teach a lesson about what is wrong. After that, they continue praying, and in a strange way, the noise began to disappear.
Well, very interesting story. It reminds me a lot about some story so similar to my grandma. Actually, it happened many years ago because my grandma was a kiddo with her sister. So it's very interesting how these things were very common.
Yeah, it is interesting too because this is a story about La Caja Ronca is a traditional history from Ibarra, I thought. But there are many experience with this type of stories around all of Ecuador. It's strange, Horror can be in everything. In a box, chains, everything.
Yes. And were you your great grandfather? Yeah, it was
My grandmother.
Oh,
Yes. Yeah.
where they lived?
She told me that she was very scary at the moment. I hope that I never passed.
Yeah, but
away.
here in Quito.
Yes, in Quito.
Yeah.
And the south of Quito.
Oh, I live there.
Yeah, but
Me too.
it was interesting because the 3 stories that we took was from the north of Ecuador.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
It's
interesting.
strange, I think.
I'm curious. Following stories from an anime sister, one of my classmates. This is a story that borders on the bizarrely disturbing. It is not something very extensive, however, to anyone who has experienced something similar, it will give you goosebumps. It was an ordinary day, like many others. I was reunited with my family and pet, as usual doing our daily chores. We ingenuously turned on the radio for a while to entertain ourselves. We never thought that we were going to experience the following. The programming was normal, but at a certain times a song came on the radio that brought us a feeling of nostalgia and melancholy. My father had a very musical taste. He especially liked a song that used to haunt my mind often. Exactly, a little more than 2 weeks ago, the same song was playing on the radio. It was really nothing out of the ordinary, I thought. After all, the radio was going to play the song someday. However, my dog, who was very close to my father for some time now, started acting strange. As if somehow the lifeless memory of my father had materialized, my dog began to play as he did sometimes I got with my father. Maybe he sensed something. Maybe the music brought back a memory, or just maybe he could see something that we could not. I can't explain what happened that day. I just know that despite the time, I still smelled the fragrance my father used to spray around the house from time to time.
Wow. I have a similar story. My father died 1 year ago, and nowadays I still smell the fragrance too. So I can say that I believe in this girl or boy, I don't know, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's very interesting because my mom passed about 8 years ago, and for me it was very similar, this story, especially because with the perfume of my mom, and that's the reason why I use the perfume. But I don't know, in my case it was like feel the presence sometimes of hear the voice, so that's very interesting. I don't know if you can have something similar.
Well, it's more like an experience. I believe that dogs can smell fear and smell something that we could not.
Now, I'm going to tell a story about my family's buried money. It all started many years ago. There is not a exact date, but it happened in Tabacundo, in the north of Ecuador, to my great-grandparents. It's supposed that almost the whole block where they lived before belonged to them, but they were still in their land, and they just keep where now I have my house. Actually, it's a pretty big house with many fruit trees and some plants. My great-grandparents didn't have a bank, so they looked up all their money to protect it in the ground. But people say that you don't have to leave it for a long, because if not, the devil wants to take it. The problem was that my great-grandfathers left a lot of time the money, and when they went to dig it up, there was nothing in the ground. The popular legend in Tabacundo is that the money that was buried for a long time now is jumping for every place that it used to be the grounds and the things of my family. So that's why people say that they saw like a plants were burning, because the money is right under those trees or those plants. And you can see the plants are burned of nowhere and look like they're caught fire at night. There is also the story of my grandmother's aunt. She said that in front of her house were a brush, a little tree. But one night, all the neighbors were calling her, very, very worried, like, Celia, come on, your house is on fire. And obviously she was so scared and tried to run out to see what was happening. But when she got out, nothing had happened. It was so strange. So the legend said that when you see those things happening, it's because the money is right under the plant. And I have a story with my family, because a few months ago we were in our house and we saw the avocado tree were up there in the part of the plants was suddenly burned, but the tree was in the middle of all the trees and no other was burning or something similar. So my granny said that maybe it was the legend, and she said us that if we want to get the money, we need to use 2 metal bars, but real metal, in the form of a cross, and dug it. That's why you can have the money. But obviously we didn't try it because it was at the night and we didn't have these roads. I thought, in my family there is a lot of stories about this money. For example, the uncles of my grandmother tell us how one day they saw the similar thing and they tried to go to get the money. So they arrived in the night in that place, but they hear the roar of a very strong bull, and saw a very big and a very angry bull that was snorting and was just running towards them. They were so scared and jumped into the improvised pit. They tried to chop the bull with the metal rods, and they tried it because some people said that if you pocket him in the stomach, all the money won't fall. But after that, they said no, and they preferred to stay there until they heard nothing. And there are still about more stories in my family about see crystal balls in the middle of the night, that people say that maybe you captured it and you can have the money of my family. But no one in my family now has tried it, and it has not been manifested again.
It was a little strange,
Yeah.
but I have a question.
What a question.
If you have the chance of search the money, will you take it?
Obviously, yes. Actually, in the story that I talk about the avocado tree, I wanted to do it. I really said to my dad, please, we need to get the money. But yeah, we didn't have the metal bars. That's so sad. But yes, I really like all these things about my family, so I want to try someday.
I will go to that place only to with the metal bars and take the money. I will be rich.
Yes.
If you have the opportunity, call us and we're going to help you to find this money.
Oh yeah, but I don't know. Maybe the money is not used right now because maybe it's old. Maybe the sucres. I don't know
But
what was the money.
we can sell in a museum.
Yes, I was thinking the same, so we could become rich.
Yeah.
You have to think it. Maybe
No,
someday.
no, I want to reunion all my friends to go to my house.
Yes,
and
it
try
was
to-
a good idea, I think.
Yeah, I need people to fight with the bull.
This history is really complicated, so that's why we want to conserve the anonymity of this person. Matt, we send you greetings.
Hi.
This history begins approximately 60 years ago in a town in the south of the country. This happens between the family of my mother and my grandmother, and my mother and her grandfather. They all lived in the same small town. Small town but big, how to say. My family tells me that the great-grandfather, my grandfather's father, was a white shaman. Since he cured everyone and was the doctor there. But one day, he and a cousin of my grandmother, who, it should be noted, was 16 years old and he was 40, were never seen again. The gospel said that she had run away with my grandfather to the town that borders on Peru. My great-grandmother, very angry and hurt by her deception and that they have left her alone with her children, decided to travel to a town called Kilanga to consult a ritual with a black witch so that the 60-year-old girl will die. My grandmother says that the ritual has to do with burning out the task for someone's death or illness. What she didn't count on was that all this would fall on my great-grandfather, making him sick and killing him months later. My grandmother says that this is still a rumor that few know, but that is quite dark because none of my uncles or my grandfather have denied this, or have been interested in looking for my great-grandfather's grave.
That's very complicated because knowing about that in your family, your own grandmas or great grandmas try to kill someone is, I understand the anonymous.
Yes. But I think that is so creepy. Imagine that your own family are killing someone. So, I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously we need to. Maybe it happened years ago because great grandfathers. The other thing that makes me feel a bit with chills is the idea that the girl was very young.
Yes.
Obviously, yeah, the people was like, no, they ran away, but it's like he is still the little girl. So yeah.
It was more correct, and both of the part of the history, the girl was 16 years old. I mean, the decision of killing someone is something that needs a lot of courage.
Yeah.
Maybe he stole her.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe she said no, but he stole her and nobody knows.
That's a possibility.
As a fact, I try to say fun fact, that's not fun. Kilanga, that is a city that the story said, is a city in Loja. And it's actually known that there is a lot of witches and shamans. They are a lot of magic, and you can go and ask for kill someone. This is pretty normal. My family, we heard some stories because we live in another city of Loja. And yeah, it's complicated.
I have a fun fact. Shaman predict my birth.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yes.
But the only thing that a shaman made me or predicted me is the typical limpia to the love. it didn't work, as you say.
Maybe we have to travel again and make us Olympia. I don't know.
Yeah, I will need to.
We need it.
Me too. Yes.
The major need Olympia. So.
Yeah.
Today we have a lot of creepy stories, but I'm going to say thank you, Kenny, thank you, Gwen, and thank you for joining us on this bone-chilling journey through the darkness.
And a special thank you for our crew and Gabby and Denny. To stay connected and continue exploring the depths of horror, follow us on our Facebook fan page, Multilingual Major Journal, and our Instagram, The Witch's Tales.
Thank you, our dear listeners, and remember, search for Witch's Tales wherever you listen to your podcasts, and prepare yourself for a never-ending nightmare.